Part 5, The Dragon's End. The ring went silent. Not the silence of defeat, the silence before something irreversible happens. The kind of silence that makes the air taste like iron and electricity. The corrupted entities had dissolved, the maze had flattened, and the 10 surviving candidates stood scattered across the platform like chess pieces waiting for a final move. Kai and Mira stood at the center. Their breathing was ragged. Their ranks had taken hit after hit. The dragon's coin between their palms had burned down to a faint, dim pulse. But they were still standing. Still together. Still dangerous. The Aether Patriarch rose from his throne. The entire arena fell still. The camera drones turned toward him. The mafia bosses sat back. The Hidden Identity Syndicate cut their feeds to full attention. When Eldritch Aether stood up at a public event, it meant one thing: the script had changed. He descended the steps slowly, deliberately, each footfall landing like a gavel. His 2 Aegis guards flanked him, their armor humming, their eyes glowing. He stepped onto the ring's platform, crossing the energy barrier as if it didn't exist, and walked directly toward Kai. He stopped 3 meters away. The crowd held its breath. "You surprise me, boy," Eldritch said, his voice low, carrying the kind of quiet authority that didn't need volume. "In 20 years of running this system, no one has ever forced my hand like this." Kai's eyes didn't move. "You buried the dragon's root candidates. You erased the Overseer program. You rewrote the system's rules to make sure people like me and Mira never reached the surface. And then you invited us to your gala to publicly humiliate the last loose end." Eldrich's lips curved faintly. "And yet here you are." "Here we are," Kai agreed. Eldrich's eyes slid to Mira. "You know what's funny, girl? I actually liked your father. Elias Valen was brilliant. The early system interface he designed, the part that allows low-ranked candidates to even access the system at all, that was his work. The Aether group didn't build the foundation of the global system. He did." Myra's jaw tightened. "Then why did you erase him?" Eldritch exhaled slowly. "Because he found the dragon's root. He understood what it meant, that the system wasn't just a ranking tool. It was alive. It was choosing its own candidates, building its own hierarchy, deciding its own future. The Aether group didn't want a system that made its own choices. We wanted a system we could control." He turned back to Kai. "So we buried the dragon's root protocol. We erased the Overseer candidates. We locked the system's hidden pathways. And we made sure the Valen name faded quietly into irrelevance." The ring's sigil beneath their feet pulsed faintly. Kai's voice was cold. "Except you missed 2 candidates." Eldritch nodded slowly. "I missed 2 candidates." The Aegis guards' gauntlets hummed louder. The camera drones circled tighter. The remaining 8 candidates on the platform backed to the edges, reading the air correctly. This wasn't a trial anymore. This was a reckoning. Eldrich's tone shifted, hardening. "I'm giving you one chance, Kai Shirin. Hand over the dragon's root coin. Walk away from the girl. Let me close the system's hidden pathways permanently. I'll give you a clean slate, a new identity, a full system sync, the highest rank the Aether group can offer. You'll never have to fight again." He paused, then added, "Or I activate the system's override protocol and erase both of you from the global system permanently. Not death, worse. You'll exist, but the system won't recognize you. No rank, no skills, no identity, invisible to every door, every resource, every future." The crowd murmured, half horrified, half hungry. Kai was quiet for 3 full seconds. Then he laughed, a short, sharp sound, the first real laugh Mira had ever heard from him. It wasn't mocking. It was relieved, almost like a man who'd been holding his breath for years and finally exhaled. "You know what your mistake was," Kai said, turning the dragon's coin over in his free hand. "You think the dragon's root is a weapon. A tool. Something you bury or hand over or trade. You've spent 20 years treating the system like a machine you own." He looked up. "The system isn't yours, Eldritch. It never was. It was always choosing. And it chose us." He pressed the coin into Myra's hand, both of them gripping it together. The ring's sigil exploded in white light. The Aegis guards lunged forward, but the system's interface slammed into them like a wall, their armor glitching, their ranks flickering, their gauntlets shorting out. The camera drones spun wildly, their feeds cutting to static. The mafia bosses shoved to their feet. The hidden identity syndicate's screens went black. The betting houses' servers crashed. The crowd erupted in pure, animal chaos. Above the ring, the system's tag board rewrote itself in real time, the old text dissolving, new lines appearing. Dragon's Root Protocol, full activation. Overseer candidate sync, initiated. Hidden pathways, unlocked. System authority, transferring. Eldritch Aether's eyes went wide, the first time in 20 years that his face showed something raw and unmasked. You can't, the system can't just. It already did, Kai said. The light from the coin surged outward, the ring's sigil fracturing into 1,000 lines of blazing gold, the system's interface rewriting itself across every screen in Neo Soul. The city's hologram panels blinked, went dark, and came back online showing a single, clean message broadcast to every device, every terminal, every floating ad panel in the East Sector and beyond. Attention! The global system's hidden archives have been unlocked. All erased Overseer candidate data has been restored. The Aether Group's unauthorized system modifications have been flagged. The following individuals are recognized as Dragon's Root Overseers: Kai Shiran, Mira Valen. The system's authority is no longer under Aether integrated control. The system chooses its own future. The arena erupted. The Undercity's stolen holograms replayed the message in endless loops, the slums lighting up with cheers, people climbing data towers to watch the sky. The high-ranked council's emergency servers flooded with alerts. The mafia bosses scrambled to recalculate every alliance they'd built on Aether's dominance. The hidden identity syndicate quietly began erasing their own tracks, understanding instantly that the old power structure had just shattered. On the ring, Eldritch Aether stood very still. The Aegis Guard's armor had gone dark, their gauntlets dead at their sides. His system tag above his head flickered, then updated. Eldritch Aether, Aether Integrated Patriarch. Status: System Authority, revoked. Pending investigation by Overseer Council. The old man's shoulders dropped, the first time in decades the weight he carried showed. He looked at Kai, then at Mira, something shifting in his expression, not remorse exactly, but recognition. The recognition of a man who had spent his whole life building a cage and had just watched someone walk through the bars. Your father would have hated this, he said to Mira quietly. Mira held his gaze. My father would have loved this, she said. He spent his whole life building something beautiful, and you spent yours turning it into a prison. He always said the system was meant to lift people, not sort them. Eldritch was silent. Two members of the system's newly reactivated oversight authority stepped onto the platform, their armor clean and white, their tags glowing with fresh credentials. They placed their hands on Eldritch's shoulders with quiet authority. Eldritch Aether, one of them said. You are requested to appear before the Overseer Council, pending investigation into unauthorized system modification, data erasure, and the suppression of the Dragon's Root program. He didn't resist. He simply nodded once, his eyes still on Kai. Finish it better than I did, he said. It wasn't advice. It was a concession. Then he walked off the ring, flanked by the Oversight Authority, and for the first time in 20 years, the Aether Group had no throne. The city took weeks to settle. The system's hidden archives, once unlocked, cascaded new data across every terminal in Neo Soul. Hundreds of erased candidates had their records restored. Dozens of families who had been quietly blacklisted by the Aether Group found their access returned. The Undercity's lowest-ranked residents began receiving system sync notifications, not the high-tier versions the elite hoarded, but honest, genuine upgrades that the system's original protocol had always intended for everyone. The Aether Trial Arena was repurposed. It still existed, still floated between the skyscrapers, but now it served as the headquarters of the new Overseer Council, open to candidates from every rank, every background, every corner of the city. Lyra Naresh, to her own evident surprise, accepted a seat on the council's advisory board. She had watched the gala's fallout from the inside of the Aether Group's collapse, and where others saw ruin, she saw an opportunity to do something less shameful with her family's wealth. She and Mira never became friends, The memory of the gala's humiliation was too fresh, but they reached a quiet, professional respect that neither of them named out loud. The three girls who had sneered at Mira at the gala faded from public life entirely. The system's social logs, once unlocked, showed that their families had been paying the Aether group to suppress rival candidates for years. The investigation made headlines for a month. No one in Neo Soul's upper tier looked quite as comfortable in their expensive suits after that. Mira found Kai on the roof of the old Aether Continental building 3 weeks after the trial. He was sitting on the edge, looking out at the city the way he always did, not admiringly, but calculatingly, like someone reading a map and looking for the roads that had been deliberately hidden. The silver ring on his right hand still glinted. The black and gold energy band around his wrist was gone now, the dragon's root protocol fully integrated into his system aura, invisible and permanent. She sat beside him. They were quiet for a long moment, the city humming below them, the hologram panels cycling through new public broadcasts, none of them Aether branded anymore. My father's research, Mira said. The system's early interface. I've been reading through the archives. Kai glanced at her. He left a note in the base code, she continued. Hidden in the system's lowest directory, buried under 20 years of Aether overriding. She paused. It just said, for whoever finds this, the system was built for everyone. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Kai was quiet for a moment. Then, softly, smart man. Yeah. Mira turned to look at him, the city glowing behind them both. I used to think the system decided everything. Who you are, what you become, whether you're worth anything. She exhaled. Turns out it was just a mirror the whole time. It only ever reflected what the people running it wanted to see. Kai nodded slowly. And now it reflects something different. She looked back at the city. Not perfect, not fixed, but honest. He reached into his coat and pulled out the dragon's coin. It was quiet now, no glowing eyes, no burning warmth. Just a small, black coin with a simple dragon engraved on it, the kind of thing that looked unremarkable unless you knew what it had cost to keep it. He held it out to her. Keep it, he said. You earned it more than I did. Mira looked at it for a long second. Then she reached out and closed his fingers back around it. We both did, she said. He looked at her hand over his. The city hummed. The wind moved between the towers. Somewhere far below, the Undercity was loud and alive, the people who had always been told they were invisible finally seeing their names in the system's logs. Neither Kai nor Mira spoke for a long time. They didn't need to. The revenge was complete, not in blood and ruin, but in something quieter and far more permanent. The truth, written in clean code, broadcast to the entire world, impossible to bury again. The power systems had shifted. The hidden identity was hidden no longer. The romance between them needed no announcement. It lived in the small, unhurried way they sat beside each other on that rooftop, shoulders almost touching, watching the city they had cracked open become something worth living in. The dragon's coin glowed once, faintly, in Kai's hand. Then it went still, and the story ended. Dragon's Root. The Aether Heir's Revenge. Complete. Dear listeners, if you've listened this far, kindly consider liking and subscribing to my channel. I'm a newcomer and I need your support. Thank you.